All right, welcome along to the RTÉ Soccer Podcast. Raf Diallo here. We're on RTÉ.ie, Apple, Spotify and YouTube, and you can follow on all those platforms to get the latest episodes. We're joined today by Keith Treacy and Johnny McDonnell to talk through the latest twists in the LOI title race, the Women's FAI Cup semis, the Irish at the clubs in Europe, and Manchester City v Arsenal. So, taking all of that together, you can expect one or two mentions of referees. I don't know, Johnny, were they your best friends during your playing and managerial career?
I never give out to the referees. Never give out to them because they. And all joking aside, Raf, there'll be days when you'd love to roar and shout and scream, but once the decision is made, there's not a lot you can do. So you need to get your focus back on the game. But look, it's difficult for them. It's difficult for them now, obviously with the VAR, but it's difficult for them then. But it was a few funny ones over the weekend.
Yeah, certainly. Now, VAR, of course, something that isn't available to referees in the League of Ireland. And, of course, a penalty decision was key to Derry City and Shamrock Rovers drawn 1-1. Patrick Hoban converting it, but it was how the penalty was won was the question. Now, Derry City manager Ruaidhri Higgins, he was speaking to Adrian Eames on RTÉ after the full-time whistle had blown and gave his reaction to his side digging out a draw, which will probably play a key part in the title race as they closed slightly on Shelbourne at the top.
That's a huge point, isn't it? And the circumstances, especially given the fact that Galway defeated Shelbourne tonight.
Aye, listen, it was a tough game. It ebbed and flowed. We had moments there, a few moments, and I definitely felt we deserved something from the game, and it would have been slightly harsh if we had left the ground this evening with nothing.
What about the late penalty? Because the broad view amongst the panel and Kenny Cunningham on commentary was that it was dubious. Some have called it a disgrace. You've had an opportunity to see it back very briefly, but what was your take on it?
Well, I hope they mentioned the stone wall penalty that was turned down before it. I hope they made as much comments about that, but you don't normally find that when Dublin clubs are involved. But listen, whether it was a penalty or it wasn't, he's given it, and there should have been one before that, so we deserve to get a penalty.
Should we have VAR in the league?
I would love VAR. I would love VAR because listen, from my own opinion, I would love VAR. 3
points now behind Shelbourne. You're in a great position.
We're in a good position. We 6 games to go. We have to stay calm. Whenever we weren't going through a brilliant time, we stayed calm and we stayed hungry and motivated, because the nature of the league this year, we all know that it's extremely difficult to pick up 3 points and matches within the league. So we've always stayed calm and used the negativity about our team as motivation. And I think you can see people have questioned their hunger, and I think you can see over the last week that this team is hungry and ready to go.
Thanks, Rory.
Thank you.
So that is Ruaidhri Higgins there from the Derry City point of view. We'll hear from Stephen Bradley and also from Pico Lopes from the Shamrock Rovers point of view later on. But I'd want to go back to something he said in the middle of that interview, Keith, and that was in reference to the thing about the Dublin clubs. That's about 2 weeks now I've heard him at least make a sort of comment where he talks about maybe a perception of sort of bias in terms of maybe from the media point of view towards Dublin clubs. Do you look at that as just an attempt to create a bit of a siege mentality?
Yeah, I wouldn't be reading too much into it. I think the standard of refereeing is fairly poor across the whole of the League of Ireland. It doesn't matter whether you're a League of Ireland club or you're Derry or Galway or whoever you are. It's been pretty poor. And look, I know we're going to come round to that Derry decision. It's absolutely awful. A lot of people are saying to me that Patrick McEleney should, he's the one where the blame should lay. I think as a player, he's probably anticipating a little bit of contact, and in his head he's thinking, you know what? I'm just going to throw the dice here, see if the referee will do something. It just so happens that the Rovers defender doesn't take the bait whatsoever, and he goes over and he gives the penalty. For me, it's an awful decision, and Stephen Bradley has every right to be absolutely annoyed about it. And yeah, I'm not so sure Ruaidhri Higgins saying that Dublin clubs. I take his point. I do think when I think it's Michael Duffy gets to the end line and crosses it in the league race, sort of slides in to stop the ball coming, but it hits his arm, his trailing arm. I think it's a penalty. I have to be honest. I know there's a lot of people that say that it's a natural position, but that ball's going into the 6-yard box, Raf, and it's going to be a very hard ball to defend. So I would have seen that as a penalty, and I do think that the referee has thought, I didn't give that one, and I think I'm getting a little bit of backlash for that. So on a caught up offence, I'm just going to give a penalty, which it should never ever be like that. It should be a standalone decision. So the referee, very, very poor. And yeah, I could see why Stephen Bradley is absolutely raging, because they seem to have turned the corner for me, Shamrock Rovers. They went and beat Sligo, which we all know how good Sligo can be on their day. Then they went and beat Galway, and that looked like it could have been a win away to Derry, which would have been 3 wins on the bounce, would have been absolutely brilliant. As it is, they get the draw, and it's not quite as good. But yeah, I've every sympathy with Stephen Bradley on that decision.
Yeah, let's listen to Bradley himself and also Pico Lopes, who just talked about the penalty, but also the where they were at in terms of maybe staying within the title race. They were also speaking to Adrian Eames on RTÉ after the game.
Pico, it perhaps feels like an opportunity lost, does it?
Yeah, we're disappointed. Look, I have to say it back, but I felt it was a really soft penalty. I don't know what Josh could do. He's running out of the way, and I'm not sure if there's much contact. And look, it's a hard place to come. They're right up and at it. They're trying to chase for the league, so we knew we'd have to hang on at times, and I thought we were doing that really well. So yeah, just unfortunate not to see the game out.
Yeah. Did you feel you had done enough to see it out at that late stage?
Well, we knew there was going to be waves of attacks coming, and even after that, you had to defend the corner kicks and that. Like I said, that's what you expect when you come up here. You have to stand up and do the ugly side of the game, I suppose. But yeah, we felt we were strong enough.
And in terms of the title picture, do you still think you're in it?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, it's a point. You know what I mean? We have to take it and move on. We're doing a big game on Monday. I'm going to try and pick up another 3. And look, there's still a good bit to go in this season. We're going to keep going.
Your view on that?
I think it's disgraceful. Really, really disgraceful decision from the referee. He's ruined what was a really good performance. Yeah, it's awful. He's so poor, and tonight he's just shown it again. A terrible decision.
Talk us through your view of it.
Well, I've seen it back a lot. He hasn't touched him. He literally hasn't touched him. And the key is all the Derry players are coming off and telling you there was no contact. He's dived. Patrick himself is telling you there was no contact. In a game like that, you have to be 100% sure. There's no way you can be sure there. It's an awful decision.
So you have to settle for a point. What about the title race? How do you see it now? Is it a 3-horse race?
Like I said before the game, we go Monday, we try win the game. Where we end up in November, we'll end up.
And in terms of your players and their attitude tonight, because they almost sealed it, they almost closed it out, that must be a bit disappointing that you didn't, despite the decision.
These players, they don't be the best team in the country for over 5 years by not having character and togetherness and a willingness to go and win games, and they showed that tonight. It was taken out of hands tonight. You can't legislate for that. That's a disgraceful decision.
He's obviously hoarding. Shamrock Rovers, I thought, had a game well in control. They were managing the game out really, really well. And, Stephen talks about, it took the good performance away from them, but they also took a good performance away from themselves by, I think it was Danny Mandry who should have scored. He got into the box and put one over the bar, and that would have wrapped her up at 2-0. So the referee has nothing to do with stuff like that. But I can understand his disappointment. I can understand the penalty. I can understand Patrick McElhenney trying to gain advantage for the penalty. I agree with what Keith says. He's left his leg out there. Josh hasn't went near him. It's absolutely not a penalty for me. And but I can understand his passion, and I can understand the disappointment for his players that they didn't go away and get the 3 points, because it would have brought them right back into play. But look, as he said, they've another chance tonight to go and pick up 3 points against Bows. But on the penalty decision with Grace, could have went either way. The ball is definitely going into the box. It's going into a dangerous area. It's not going out for a corner. And his hand wasn't on the ground. His hand is in the air. It's away from his body. So 50-50 for me. But I've seen him given.
Yeah, and from, Keith, you mentioned sort of Shamrock Rovers' performance level in terms of building into that game against Derry, but then also during the game itself that they did impress at times. Obviously, the goal was a little bit against the run of play. So Derry seemed to be shading that first half in particular, but then they just got stung, and they seemed to lack a bit of end product in their own final third as well.
Yeah, I thought Pico Lopes summed it up quite well that, Shamrock Rovers were going there. They knew Derry were a good team. They're right in the hunt for the league. There's going to be times when Shamrock Rovers are going to have to, bite down and just get through periods of the game. And they were doing that. It was a decent away performance. Derry, I agree with Ruaidhri Higgins. I do think they were shading the game and probably did deserve a draw on the balance of things. But yeah, I also think when you're Shamrock Rovers and you've worked so hard and you've got so close to it, and then when a decision like that comes, and it just leaves a horrible, horrible taste in the mouth. And I get where Stephen Bradley is coming from. You watch your team suffer out of possession. You see you've come up the road to Derry. you've done so well, you've got so close, and then that decision just seems to unravel it all. But look, I don't think it's going to have too much of a bearing on the league because, as I say, we know Shelbourne have gone on to lose, but Derry didn't seem to be there to go and win the game. It seems like they needed a bit of luck to go and get the draw. So I don't see anybody with the consistency to actually go and overtake a Shelbourne. And, I think everybody's at this stage is crawling towards the line. So Shamrock Rovers, I think, have 12 games now till the end of the season with Europe in the mixer. So I don't really see them competing for the league, although had they got the 3 points up there on Friday night, I'm sure Stephen Bradley would be saying otherwise. But I just see too many games and too many players just, maybe feeling a bit leggy towards the end.
Yeah, and
just on that, Raf. Yeah. Just regards to Keith's talking about Shels and Derry. Teams are inconsistent, and everyone can beat everyone. Rovers do have a lot of games, but if the status quo stays the same, and Derry Derry got Shels in the last match of the season up there.
Yeah.
If there's 3 points in it at the moment, I think they've a better goal difference by about six or seven maybe. So it's going to go right down to the wire if you ask me. There will be games, where there'll be a result here and there, but I still wouldn't write Rovers out of it. If they get a win tonight, they're 4 points off being on top. I just wouldn't write them out of it.
Yeah, and on top of that, though, as well, Johnny, once they play Bows tonight, then it's a couple more Dublin derbies, so it hinges on some games that are going to be incredibly tricky.
Well, the Pats are definitely coming into a bit of form and stuff as well. So, played well the other night, got a good win, 3-0 win against Waterford. They're coming into a bit of form after coming out of European stuff. They found a bit of form, bit of consistency, a bit of confidence going. Pats will be one to watch out for next season when they build. But I agree the Dublin derbies can be difficult, but I still wouldn't write them off. Stephen said that these players have done it for the last 5 years. They've been there, they've crossed the line, they know how to do it. They won't feel the pressure. I was listening to Pico speaking after the game, nice and calm, nice and relaxed. Doesn't feel under any pressure. And I think the likes of that stuff will bring them right up to the end of the season. For me, with Shels, if they do it, they're going to stumble over the line. They really are going to stumble over the line. So it's going to be close, Raf. It really is. It's been brilliant. It's been, between penalties, referees, decisions, and it's great that there's definitely the tier with Derry and Shels, but Rovers chasing them down, and then the European spots. Season's been good, but inconsistent for a lot of teams, but being good and exciting for someone looking onto it.
Yeah, from Shelbourne's point of view, still top of the table, but that has been slashed down to 3 points. Obviously, with Derry earning that late point at home to Shamrock Rovers, and it was Galway United that beat Shelbourne on Friday night. Jimmy Keohane with the goal, and it was really well taken in its simplicity as well, wasn't it, Keith?
Yeah, it was really clear thought process, and the way he hit it, Raf. From that position, you expect the player to really try and whip his foot around the ball and take the leather off it. He just seemed to caress it in there, and really, really nice finish from Keohane. And Shelbourne just didn't seem to have that gear to go and get themselves a goal. And I think that's the one real worry from a Shelbourne point of view is when they go behind, they don't have that gear and an attacking sense to go up at the levels. They're a good team, solid team, very, very rigid defensively, will make it difficult for everybody. But if somebody gets their nose in front, that's when it's really difficult for them. But I don't think we should just underestimate Galway's performance either. The one thing I think every coach, every manager wants the opposition team to say about them is we don't want to go there, and nobody wants to go and have a game of football with Galway because you're going to be asked questions in the offence. You're going to have to defend for long periods. There's going to be balls coming in left, right, and centre. You'll have to deal with. There'll be the odd elbow thrown here and there that gets a little bit physical. But look at the results that John Caulfield and Galway are producing. So yeah, it's brilliant from Galway. And again, Shelbourne, people are saying to me they're after losing, they're just stumbling towards it. Anybody can go and lose to Galway away. They really are a tough team to go and deal with physically. So I'm still not pressing the panic button on Shelbourne. I do think, with the players they've lost over the course of the season, one or two going back to their parent clubs, one or two being sold. It has become a little bit more disjointed, but I still feel that Shelbourne will just crawl towards the end. And yeah, everybody's just knocking lumps out of everybody everywhere, and they don't need the consistency to go and, they don't need to win the next 5 games to win the league. I think they can drop points. I think Derry will definitely drop points, as will Shamrock Rovers. So it's still Shelbourne's to lose. But if you're a Shelbourne fan, you must be sitting thinking, this is our third full season back in the Premier Division. We've been in Europe this season. We've been at the summit of the league for so long. This is wonderful, wonderful dreamland stuff for Shelbourne. So even if they weren't to go on and win it, Raf, I don't think many of the Shell fans would be saying, what a poor season we've just had.
Yeah,
they mightn't have another opportunity. They might not have another opportunity to win it again. This is the season for Shells, Raf. If you ask me, this is the season. Keith is saying, like, they might fall over the line. They've a young team. They need to just calm down and don't panic. But they're not scoring goals, and they need to score goals. I think Galway, Bows, and Dundalk are the only teams below them that have scored less goals than them. And early on in the season, like, once they went ahead, they were hard to peg back. But if they're not scoring goals, there's always a chance, like the likes of Galway going down there and not sneaking a goal. It was a great goal by Jimmy Keohane. He caused mayhem in the Shells defence all through the match. You watched it, and it's going to be really, really difficult. But they need someone to come up now and start banging in a few goals from, once they get that lead again. If you go, as I said, if you go in front in a game, they're difficult to peg back. But Keith said it, if you go behind, difficult for them to come back into it as well because they don't score enough goals. Sorry, Raf.
Yeah, because they had 67% possession, and I know possession is only, it's not the most important facet of the game, but they had plenty of the ball, but they had 4 shots on target and 11 off, and that was fewer than Galway mustered in sort of both of those categories in the game. So it just showed, and also Ed McCarthy hits the bar early on too, so Galway could have been 2-0 up at that stage. But there's the tension part of it as well. And Johnny, you've been in title races yourself. And obviously we look at teams as this kind of hive mind sometimes, but I suppose every member of a squad is at a different place in terms of confidence and whether the tension is getting to them. How did you deal with it in the dressing rooms you were in when you're in that sort of battle? There's another team, like let's say a Derry in this situation doing what they're doing, and you might hit a stumbling block or two in the final few weeks.
It's down to the players. It's down to the likes of Sean Gannon, who's won so many leagues and's been around a bit. It's the likes of him to manage the dressing room, to help Damien in the dressing room. And you just and you ask the question, how do you manage it? Like us winning leagues, I remember playing in matches and you might go 1-0 down, but you've built up that much confidence within yourself, and we're also within your teammates around the team, that you kind of go, we'll be all right here because we've worked so hard at this. Keith said Shells now are 3 years into this. Well, some of them are 3 years into it, players coming and going, but you just build that confidence up over the period of time. It just doesn't happen overnight. And you just kind of go, we'll be all right. And it's, as I said, Lucia Sean Gannon that needs to sit them down and say, look, no matter what happens, we'll be fine. Remember the match early on the season when we come back, and try and give the young lads confidence, and just have that confidence to believe that we got this far now, that it will get us over the line. Just keep doing what we're doing. Don't try and do anything different. Just keep doing what you're doing, and the work that you've done in pre-season and all the way through the season will help you. But it's difficult because different players manage pressure in different ways. But as I said, I keep saying it, the likes of Sean Gannon, he's been there, back, won medals, cups, everything. Highly decorated player. He's the fella that they need to go to. He's the man. He's the leader in the dressing room from now until the end of the season.
Yeah, and elsewhere at the bottom end, Drogheda United with a key victory over Bows, France Piero scoring in the first half, just ahead of the half-hour mark. And this was, Keith, Drogheda's first away win of the season, remarkably enough. But and again, at the same time, against a Bows team that had started to pick up points and were on a little bit of a roll, probably off the back of the victory over Shamrock Rovers a few weeks ago. But a really significant victory that puts a lot of pressure on Dundalk, who have other issues as well that we'll talk about later on. Yeah,
Drogheda seem to be just doing enough to ease away from Dundalk at the bottom of the table. And on paper, you can see that, I like Drogheda. I think they have some wonderful little players within their team. I'm a big fan of Darren Markey. I think there's one or two others in there that are really good. But you look at the Bows team on paper and you think we should be able to deal with a Drogheda. But yeah, I went up the Daily Mount a few times this season, and it's just been so inconsistent. And again, I go back to it on, John was talking about Sean Gannon at Shelbourne. I look for leaders in the Bows team, and you know, anybody can be a leader when it's going well, Raf, when you're winning games, when you're on top. Anybody can go and get the ball and look like a leader. When things start to go a little bit south for Bows, I don't see anybody puffing out their chest and saying, give me the ball, I'll be the one. A lot of people are going missing for me, and yeah, it's never something that you like to throw at them, but they've just been so inconsistent over the last, you know, the whole period of the season, really. They just haven't been good enough, and for Drogheda, they must be thinking, you know, with everything that's going on with them dark on and off the pitch at the minute, if we can go and put, you know, 3 more results together, that's it, we're done, we're out of this. And, you know, at the start of the season, that's probably all Drogheda could have really wanted. You know, there would have been aspirations to maybe hang on to a bit of a, hang on at the back of the European race. As long as Drogheda stay out of the relegation race, I think they're happy enough, and they're just starting to ease away from that. But from Bows, it's been a really, really poor season. But up against Shamrock Rovers tonight, Raf, what a way to put it right straight away.
Yeah, and then Pat's 3-0 winners over Waterford. Zach El-Bouzedi in the first half, Mason Melia about 5 minutes before half-time, and then Aidan Keena with the final goal on 77 minutes there. And you mentioned, Johnny, that Pats are a team like you're a bit excited about when it comes to what they'll look like under Stephen Kenny next year, but they seem to be building a real core now. Just even looking in the last 3 games, there's only been, you know, they've basically picked the same 11 except against Waterford. Mason Melia comes in for Aidan Keena, but otherwise he seems to be building a real unit there.
Yeah, and I was actually up during the week watching them training and stuff, and you know, I think they changed his training regime around a little bit. Stephen's going to take a little bit of time to get his stamp on it and what he wants to do and what, you know, what's required, you know, from the players, from him, and you know, the standards that they need to bring it up to. And then no better man than Stephen to do that. But it's going to take a little bit of time. Kavanagh was brilliant the other night for them, I have to say. The goals are decent. Keena's come in. Melia's there. Will Melia be around next season? Will he have to replace him? Will he go before next season? Keena coming in gets a good goal. So there's a good balance around the team. Chris Forrester, you know, seems to be lasting games. I had a bit of a pop off Chris early on in the season. I seen him going around with cranky heading them in matches and giving out to fellas. Seems has lost that, and he seems to be doing so much work around the pitch and the quality that he has. You know, so in there with Jamie Lennon, the balance that he have in there. But he's lasting the games. I seen him early on the season get taken off 60, 70 minutes. Seems to be lasting out the games now, but. Good core. I agree with you, Raf, a good core. And, you know, I think the weekend was difficult for Pats. They got a good win against Waterford, but with Sligo winning and with Galway winning, it just pushed that European spot out a little bit far for them, but still wouldn't write them off for the European spot.
Yeah, and then Waterford on the flip side of that had a very good season, Keith. I think whatever happens between now and the end of it, it'll be a positive campaign at their first season back. But they've just tailed off a little bit, it seems. Only 1 win, and that was against Dundalk in their last 5 in the league and cup. But I'm sure Keith Long will be keen to at least, you know, get them back on an even keel before the end of the season, because sometimes these things can carry over from one season to the next.
Yeah, they seem to have just tapered off ever so slightly, Raf, but I think that was inevitable given how well they started the season. And look, I spoke to a couple of the Waterford boys after the game there, and my impression of the game where it could have really went either way. You look at it and think Pats won 3-0, and you're thinking, they must have battered Waterford. Very, very competitive throughout the game. I thought Bagley in the middle of the pitch had a really good game. There was a moment in it, Tom Grogowski gets a yellow card in around, you know, whatever, minute, and then a little bit later on he makes a tackle on McMenemy. McMenemy gets booked for diving, and I think there's a little bit of contact there, and if the referee does give the penalty, then he has to send off Tom Grogowski. You'd imagine that Waterford would be able to convert the penalty with Paul Dragamond. As it happened, it wasn't a penalty. McMenemy gets booked for diving. I thought that was a ridiculous decision from the referee. Having seen the replays, nothing has changed in my mind, but look, I think the good thing from St. Pat's point of view, Stephen Kenny he's made a difference to this Pats team. In Europe, they were really, really good, but it's a different style of football, and he's coming into the League of Ireland now and starting to improve players. I mean, you look at El-Bouzedi coming in, he's really, really good. A great little find from Stephen Kenny. Mason Melia's got better. Mulroney has got better under him. Lennon has got better in the middle of the pitch.
Brandon Kavanagh. The first 20 minutes of the game the other night, Brandon Kavanagh was unbelievable. But he had a shot, the keeper made a great save, hit the crossbar, his assist for El Bouzzebi. He gets, Anto Breslin chips the ball into him, head height into the middle of the pitch while he's been marked by 2 Waterford players. And he just takes it away from him in his first touch, second touch, and a through ball with his third. Sam Sargent in the goal for Waterford didn't have a great night. I thought he was susceptible for 2 of the goals that Pat's scored. But yeah, look, from Pat's point of view, everything's going in the right direction. They're winning games. The wingers are full of pace. The strikers look really, really good. And as John says, the middle of the pitch with Lennon and Forrester seems to have got some real shape. And with Grogowski and Redmond behind them, it's starting to look really, really strong. And I'm not wishing away this season by any means, because it's just starting to hot up at both ends of the table. But from a St. Pat's point of view, you can't help but your eye just wander to next season and think, I wonder how strong St. Pat's will be then, because the start of the season has really killed them.
Yeah, whereas conversely, Dundalk, it is looking bleak for them on the pitch, and that's not even mentioned off the pitch. And they lost 2-1 at Sligo Rovers on Saturday. Wilson Waweru equalising after Robbie Benson scored a first half penalty, and then Ellis Chapman with a penalty after Can had been sent off. And it was a game, looking at that game between Sligo and Dundalk, Johnny, it was the goalkeepers did play a key role. Ross Monroe, from a Dundalk point of view, kept them in it for such a long time. But in the end, even despite all the struggles Dundalk have had, it took a Ed McGinty save and a brilliant save at the end to preserve the points for Sligo Rovers.
Yeah, look, I mean, talk about inconsistency. Sligo have been inconsistent. He got battered by Dundalk, I think it was 7-0 a few weeks back and stuff. You know, Dundalk had a really good start. The first 25 minutes of the game, they were a better team by far. You know, and the likes of, we talk about, you know, fellas around teams like Horgan, Benson and Mountney, they're fellas in Dundalk that they have a young team as well, the young players, they're fellas that need to guide this team around the pitch. Monroe did make some really good saves, I agree, but you know, going 1-0 up, they need to be able to stay ahead, even to pick up a point in the game. But you know, Wilson, wherever got the goal, Chapman's finished with the penalty as well. But look, all the stuff that's going on off the pitch, it has to affect the players, and we just be taking 2 or 3 or 5% away from players individually around the pitch, and that can be the difference of not getting a point or not getting 3 points in the game.
Yeah, because they have been pulled back from the precipice, but still difficult days ahead. And this is after the owner, Brian Ainscliffe, agreed to take over with the local barrister, John Temple, who's leading a consortium called Silver Lane Ireland with a commitment until November. And Temple, who was speaking last week after this deal had come to pass, said things are still looking bleak. He said to the Examiner, "We've very tough decisions to make, some decisions not to everyone's liking. We're far from out of the woods. The club is in serious financial difficulty. Our heads are just above water. Undertaking to pay the wages is one aspect, but the creditors are banging down the door every hour. There's email every second hour, if not from solicitors, then people wanting to appoint receivers, threatening all sorts. We'll work with the creditors, but I need more than just goodwill from the fans too. People must put their shoulders to the wheel." And as Johnny alluded to there, Keith, I mean, for the players, all this is happening in the background, and I imagine it's going to be very difficult to insulate themselves totally from what's happening around the club, especially when they've had the situation where there was that week where the wages didn't come through, and it hits everybody at that stage, players, staff, and everyone involved.
Yeah, it's a really difficult situation to try and find yourself in. And thankfully, I've never been in that sort of position in my career where it's been that close to the bone, where a club has literally nearly ceased to exist. So it's been really, really difficult. And look, on the pitch, I thought you were unlucky against Sligo. I thought you went there, everything considered, what's going on the pitch, off the pitch. I thought Dundalk did okay, as you said. Ed McGinty, last minute save, otherwise Dundalk get something out of it. And the one worrying thing for me today, reading the papers this morning, is John Daly, the Dundalk manager, has come out and said, look, if I'd have known the truth, I'd have stayed in Scotland. So he's sort of now verbalising that he doesn't really want to be here. So, look, I think you've got to manipulate the situation somehow. I think you've got to get into the players' heads that nobody expects us to stay in the league. Nobody wants us to stay in the league. You've got to somehow get your back against the wall and just start throwing digs left, right and centre. They need to win a game of football and somehow roll into some sort of confidence. But look, when you talk about Shelbourne at the top end feeling the pressure, if I was Damien Duff, I'd be pointing out the pressure that Dundalk must be feeling, because pressure is a privilege. We all know that old saying, you know, to be in this position is a privilege. What Shelbourne are feeling is a privilege at the top end. What Dundalk are feeling is, you know, putting dinner on the table. That's real pressure. So Shelbourne just need to take a step back and think, you know, we're in a title race here. So look, not to go back to Shelbourne, but I would just try and manipulate the situation if I was John Daly and say, look, nobody expects us to survive this. Let's just see what we can do on and off the pitch and try and bring some good feeling back around the club.
Yeah, and there's a couple of matches tonight, as mentioned earlier. So Drogheda United have a chance to put even more pressure on Dundalk when they host Galway United at Weavers Park, 7:45 p.m. kickoff. And then Shamrock Rovers and Bows, as mentioned earlier, at Tallaght Stadium. So that could tilt the title race a little bit if Shamrock Rovers can get a win there. They're at the moment, as it stands, pre that game, they're 7 points adrift of Shels, but once they play tonight, they'll have played a game more. So it is very tight up there potentially. In the Women's FAI Cup on Saturday, Shelbourne beat Cork City 5-0. So they're into decider, and it's going to be the exact same decider as last year, as the reigning champions Athlone Town beat Sligo Rovers 1-0, and Shauna Brennan scoring the only goal in that game to bring Athlone back to the final, which is going to take place on Sunday 20th of October, and we're going to have live coverage of that. Now, Shauna Brennan, as well as the captain Laurie Ryan and manager Ciaran Kilduff, were all speaking to Adrian Eames after the game. So here's that Athlone trio.
Shauna, just your second goal of the season. How special was that?
Oh yeah, it's great, and especially just to get the win. Like, we don't really care who gets the goals. Even we were saying during the week, like, we've been unlucky with injuries, but every week someone different steps up. So I was delighted to get the goal today and get us over the line.
It was a tough game though, wasn't it?
Yeah, for sure. Sligo put it up to us and they fought all the way to the end, but thankfully we hung in there and we're through to the final, so that was the objective.
And it's Shelbourne once again for the third year in a row for Athlone.
Yeah, and they've won and we've won, so this will be the ultimate battle, I guess.
Laurie, congratulations into yet another cup final, but it was hard fought, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think we knew coming here, obviously Sligo are a great team, and obviously they've a lot of our fast players, so we're just delighted to get over the line. They posed a really tough test for us, and I think it took us a while to pull away and get the goal in the first half, and then it was some heroic defending, I think, from Ciara O'Neill and Kaylee and Shauna and Kelly in the back that got us over the line in the end, and just obviously the objective was to get out of here with a win, and we have, so we're delighted.
And it's Shelbourne once again for the third year in a row. Athlone Town versus Shelbourne in the Cup decider. That's to come at Tallaght next month. Obviously Shelbourne won in 2022. You won on penalties last year, so this is the decider, is it?
The trilogy, yeah. Look, us and Shelbourne have had some great battles over the years, and even again this year we've played each other 3 times and it's been very even. They've a win, we've a win, and it's been a draw. So we're looking forward to it. It's obviously a couple of weeks away, so we've a lot to focus on between now and then with the league. We're straight back into action on Wednesday. So yeah, it's a quick turnaround for us.
And of course you can do the double. That has to be the aim. You have that game in hand, 2 points clear at the top of the table. You have Wexford on Wednesday, so the double is on.
I haven't even thought of like that. I literally have been just thinking every game as it comes, and I think Wednesday is no different. It's just another game for us. We have to go down and try perform, and that's the way we've kind of had our focus all year. Obviously it's getting a bit tighter now and people are starting to talk, but we're just trying to keep our heads down and get another win if we can down there.
Of course everybody will look at it and say for the third year in a row it's going to be Athlone Town and Shelbourne, and it's one apiece so far.
Yeah, the trilogy, yeah. Look at 2 great teams, you know what I mean, for the last couple of years. A lot of players, they all know each other, and there's going to be a lot of quality on show. I think even just, you know, last year's final alone, the 2-2, the penalty shootouts, the drama, they tend to be great games, and there's going to be another one now for people to look forward to, and I hope we get a big crowd, and it's a really good occasion for both teams because they deserve it, and you know, it's not easy to get a cup final. Everyone wants to get there at the start of the season, and you know, we're lucky enough to be there, and we're gonna relish the occasion.
You have a lot of cup finals to look forward to because of course you've got the league, and every game of the league now is like a cup final. You have a back game to play on Wednesday against Wexford, 2 points clear at the top of the table, so people will be talking about the double naturally. No pressure.
No pressure. No, look, it's listen, you have to win one before you can win two, and look, we're nowhere near winning either at the minute. We've a bit to do. Obviously, it's weird in there. You know, we usually play on Saturdays. You're coming in Sunday evening, and you've got a match on Wednesday. It's a quick turnaround, and we're kind of in uncharted waters for us a little bit. So we're gonna, you know, debrief today, get rid of it as quick as we can, pick the positives, and then move on to, as you said, a huge run in now. I think it's, you know, we've got in total, we had 3 games in 6 days. That's one of them out of the way, but Wexford and then Shamrock Rovers the following Saturday as well. They're coming thick and fast. We've no real time to dwell on things, which is probably a good thing considering tonight we probably weren't at our best. All
right, so that is Ciaran Kilduff, and before that you heard the goal scorer for Athlone, Shauna Brennan, and also the captain, Laurie Ryan. And in the first division, as the table stands, in the men's first division, Cork City, of course, promoted a couple of weeks ago, 20 points clear of UCD as it stands, and UCD also in action tonight as well. And then in the playoff positions, Bray Wanderers, Athlone and Wexford currently occupied them, but Finn Harps only 3 points behind. In terms of the lay of the land in the first division, Johnny, what are you making of it?
Well, we know Cork are home and host, and you know, as I said before, you know, UCD, they'll be there and thereabouts, and you know, they know their way around getting back up and down, up into the Premier League. I think you would, you know, looking at the results in the Cup, they were well beaten in the Cup by a Premier League team. So I think it's the Brays, the Athlone and the Wexfords are the ones, and the Finn Harps trying to get into the playoff positions. There's a scramble for that, and I know a bit of Bray are not going through a great time at the moment. Athlone, Wexford are hanging in there. So it's always exciting at this part of the season for them to try and get into that playoff position. So you know, as I said, it's great to get Cork back into the league, and UCD probably be the next out of that group, I'd say.
Yeah, and just turning our thoughts to the Irish players that are playing for clubs involved in European competition. So last week was quite of a historic one in terms of the Celtic duo. So Liam Scales and Adam Idah both scoring against Slovan Bratislava last Wednesday. The first Irish scorers in the Champions League since Darren Gibson all the way back in the 2010-11 Champions League semi-final, second leg against Schalke for Manchester United. And it's also the first time that 2 Irish players have scored in the same Champions League match for the same team, which is kind of a remarkable enough stat as well. Now Idah then went on to score. Yeah, sorry, go on, Johnny.
Something in common with myself. I scored against Slovan Bratislava for Pats in Europe as well, so there you go.
A little bit of history there. No, well worth throwing in. But Adam Idah, he went on to score a couple more on Sunday as well in the League Cup, Scottish League Cup against Falkirk. And Troy Parrott, he's going to be in action for AZ in the Europa League against IF Elfsborg this Wednesday. Now, I don't think we spoke about it in the last couple of weeks, but he did score 4 goals against Heerenveen the weekend before last. And looking at the stats, 19 shots, 11 on target, and both of those stats as of Sunday morning were the most of any player in the Dutch top flight. He's also had 8 off target, which is the second highest. Yeah, go on, Johnny.
Well, we spoke about him, Raf. Sorry, Keith. Yeah. Sorry for cutting across you. We spoke about him last week or so, and you know, he didn't get a goal in the game, the Irish game. You know, Liam Scales didn't get a goal in the Irish game, and we spoke about that left side of position. You know, we were asking about. Like, he's playing at a really high level, Scales. He's playing at a high level. He's also scoring goals, you know. So, obviously, he's going to get a goal in the near future. He has to get a goal. Troy has put the head down. I have to give it to him. He's put the head down. He's lost his way over the last year or so. But when he's on form, he's on form. And there's some stats, Raf, you're throwing out there. Like, you know, and as I say, he scored 4 goals. He's obviously said, look, I need to get my head together. I need to get back in you know, get myself back out there and get myself back into the teams and get myself into the international team and get my profile up and get out of the Dutch League and back into the Premier League or into a top championship team or whatever it might be. And he's shown he has the ability to do it. So sometimes it's just in a player's head, and for me, it's just Troy, just getting them. The mental side of it, I know people don't like saying the mental side of it anymore, but you know, he just needs to get his head in the game, and he's done that, and fair play to him, he's banging in the goals.
Yeah, no, so far it's all been, all the goals were condensed into one game. So I think the thing he'll be looking to do now is to kind of spread it out into more fixtures. But he is taking a lot of shots, as the stats show there, and obviously those stats show what I was up to on Sunday morning. Instead of doing something more useful, I'm there looking up Troy Parrott stats. But anyway, in terms of the Irish players involved in Europe, so Liam Scales, Adam Idah, Troy Parrott, and Caoimhin Kelleher, of course, for Liverpool. But as number two, are the Irish ones involved in the Champions League and Europa League this season, and that's not including the Shamrock Rovers players who are going to be in the Conference League, which kicks off in a couple of weeks. But Keith, looking overall at the I suppose this clutch of players who are playing in not the top 5 leagues, but the leagues that are sort of directly below, so like the Scottish League, the Dutch League, do you want to see more Irish players go down that route, especially to clubs where perhaps they are involved in European like competition, whether it is the Champions League or the Europa League, like what Troy has done and what Adam Idah and Liam Scales are doing?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a better route than sitting on the bench in a Premier League club or even a half decent Championship team. I think with the age profile of all the players you're speaking about, they need to be playing football. And look, Scales, I think, is one, as Johnny said, didn't really get a chance in the Irish system just yet. He'll probably be coming at left back, but we're going to go into it. Are we playing a 4 or a 5 at the back? I get all that. Adam Idah is a prime example. Troy Parrott as well could have just sat around at Spurs and not got game time, but decided I'm going to go. And the one thing I liked is when he had the loan last season in the Dutch league, he obviously had offers when he came back and decided, no, I'm going to go back where I felt comfortable and I scored a goal. So I think it's sometimes you just have to do the right thing for yourself. And Troy, for me, sometimes you can zoom out and think Evan Ferguson is probably ahead of me in the Irish. Adam Idah is probably ahead of me as well. Maybe even Schmodix might play ahead of me in a forward position. Don't worry about that. Go and play every game as it comes. You do well for your club. You've proven that you will get into the Irish setup. And Evan Ferguson he's still struggling to come back from his injury. Adam Idah, you're never far away from the Irish team at all. So for Troy, keep your head down, keep doing what you're doing. And it's only a matter of time. And even, Raf, we're sitting here and we talk about all these Irish players and I start thinking, isn't it great? Even Jake O'Brien doesn't get a game for us and he's on the bench in a Premier League club. It's a little bit different for him coming in from Leon to Everton. He's trying to force his way into that Everton team. But yeah, anything's better. Go and play at any level rather than just stagnate, because I've done that where I'm not quite playing in reserves, not quite in the forwards team. You find yourself in limbo and your match sharpness can go very, very quickly. And with the group of players we have, we're reliant on everybody. So we need everybody to be getting minutes and to be as sharp as they can be.
Yeah, did you ever have any opportunities yourself in terms of any interest from clubs on the continent at any point when you were when you were at Blackburn or anything like that?
There was one or two. There was Club Brugge. We went over there to play the friendly once. I don't know what the link was, but we literally went over midweek, played a friendly against Club Brugge, and they asked to take me on loan. And Blackburn said, look, it's up to you. You can stay here and develop, or you can go and put some hair in your chest. And with it being Belgium, I wasn't too enthused about it, to be honest with you, Raf. And I think that whole stigma of going too far away is gone now. I think England was as far as people would really venture when I was younger, and I think at the time I would have been 16, maybe 17, and going to a country that they're not predominantly English as well. I would have really, really struggled. I had LA Galaxy as well, but these American moves at my age. I find that most players will really go to America or even now Saudi Arabia, where they're on the downturn rather than 24, 25 as I was.
All right, so you didn't fancy Hollywood or the Belgian chocolates either.
I barely. You
could have been in the movies, Keith. You could have been in the movies.
I barely know Blackpool alive. Jesus Christ, can you imagine what Hollywood would have done to me?
But moving a little bit closer from LA to another city that starts with the letter L. So Liverpool, obviously, Caoimhin Kelleher did get a start because Alisson was out injured. You were saying, Keith, you did watch this match against Bournemouth, so they won 3-0. Caoimhin Kelleher still had a good bit to do and did it well.
Yeah, he did. And again, it's another one. You look at the Pats and Waterford game 3-0 and you think Pats must have battered them. Again, you can look at this and think Liverpool are after battering Bournemouth. Bournemouth were very, very unlucky. They had the ball in the back of the net early on in the game. Semenyo tapped in at the back stick and VAR went back and had a look and he's just slightly offside. It is the right decision, but very, very unlucky from a Bournemouth point of view. And yeah, really, really, really competitive. Ryan Christie, possibly could have got a red card early on in the game. There was a bouncing ball and he goes and nicks the ball away, but follows through very, very high, over hip height on Luis Diaz, and the referee gave him a yellow card. So there was a couple of different little talking points within the game, but Luis Diaz, for me, he's been unbelievable. And so many people talk about Salah on the other side, and rightly so. He's been doing it for years and years now. But Luis Diaz on the other side is absolutely electric. 5 goals already this season. Such a big threat. And the one thing that's great from a Liverpool and Arne Slot point of view, in midweek against AC Milan, Cody Gakpo played on left wing and he was absolutely outstanding as well. So there's a real rivalry now and real pushing for positions to play in that Liverpool team, and I like it, but I just fear for him. I think Arne Slot has come in and done really well. He's probably exceeded my expectations, as I thought there'd be a little bit of a hangover from Jurgen Klopp. That still might come down the road, but yeah, early signs really, really good. But Bournemouth can count themselves unlucky to come away from nothing to that game.
Yeah, and we'll finish off with Manchester City against Arsenal. So a 2-2 draw there, and this game sort of had everything. But we'll try and parse our way through it. I suppose, Johnny, first, the amount of needle in it from pretty much the kick, straight from the kickoff, and it just never really stopped. And there was a bit of a fight at the end.
It was old-fashioned.
Yeah,
it was brilliant. It was just. It reminded me of years ago, and even United against Arsenal and stuff. I had everything the game. I really enjoyed it, I have to say, and the madness on the touchline, the two managers, Pep kicking the seat. He could have got sent off and kicked off, and City got the equaliser, the two benches. I had everything. Haaland, as you say, straight away. Him and Gabriel battering one another for the whole match. The challenge in the air. Haaland bouncing the ball off his head when the goal went in. I don't know if he's going to be in trouble over that. He picks up out of the net. I don't know whether you see it. But look, it was brilliant. It was excellent. The goal, Arsenal's first goal, California, brilliant finish. He's up there, he bends it in. From the City point of view, the goal, the header, Daku marking Gabriel for the first one that he put over the bar. He's marking him, and it's the exact same run, the same movement. It's all set up. Arsenal have done well from the set pieces this year, but the second one then, it's the exact same run, and it's just not picked up. He just gets a run on them, and I'd say, City be so disappointed with that. Obviously losing Ruaidhri, injury as well, but to come back, and get the late goal with, Arsenal saying they played a low block, they played a low block. They didn't move out of the box, but they done it really, really well. I think what helped City as well was, with Grealish coming on, Foden coming on, the technical ability of Foden, getting it in tight areas in the box. Grealish, being patient, staying out wide, getting it out there, and it was heartbreaking, absolutely heartbreaking for Arsenal to concede it so late. And it keeps City's unbeaten run going at home as well. But I had everything, Raf, I have to say. I enjoyed it so much, as I said, from the benches onto the pitch. Raya making some fantastic saves, from City. But with Arsenal, the way they played, they just narrowed it down. As soon as anyone decent got the ball, they just left the two centre halves on the ball and shooting from long range. And so they had a game plan. They had it really worked out well, and they nearly got it over the line. But it was brilliant, I have to say. I really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and it was only a few weeks ago, Keith, we were talking about the Declan Rice sending off against Brighton when he kicked the ball away and you got that second yellow card, and somehow this has only happened to Arsenal now this season. This the way this law has been applied, and Trossard sort of booting the ball away. Now, I suppose some people would look at it and say he's been quite silly as well. And then I think we spoke about the consistency issue as well the previous time, and I think there was a moment where a Manchester City player earlier in the game as well also sort of kicked the ball away and wasn't penalised. Where do you stand on it? Would you, if you're Arteta, who gave Trossard a hug as he went off the pitch, would you be sort of furious with him, or would your ire be towards the referees in a certain sense?
It would be a bit of both. I'd be absolutely furious with Trossard, the fact that he's gave the referee a chance to do it, but in isolation, Raf, it's a yellow card. You kick the ball away, it's a yellow card. And I think the wording of the rule is delaying the restart. If you delay the restart, it's a bog standard yellow card now. no problem. And you see players now kicking the ball away, it's a straight yellow card. Commentators are straight on it. You can't do that. Okay, we all accept that now. The Trossard's second yellow card in isolation is a yellow card. What you're saying about the Manchester City player kicking the ball away is absolutely spot on. Doku has the ball. The referee blows his whistle. He looks at the ref and he decides, I'm going to kick it probably 10 yards the other way. It's not to Declan Rice where he's standing. So you see Michael Oliver points and goes, it's only there. So now you're getting into how far the ball travels. It's either delaying the restart or it's not delaying the restart. And, you know, the one thing, Michelle O'Neill was in Saturday Sport with me, and the one thing that I said to her really grates on players is the consistency of the decision. If he's going to use common sense with kicking the ball away 5 yards, no problem. Use common sense. So that's your initiative. But don't send somebody off for the same offence. If you're letting somebody off, you've got to let the next fella off. You can't, decide, oh, you're not getting it, but you are getting it, because that's when the grey area comes in and everybody gets annoyed. You've got to, referee with the same standards. But look, I think Arsenal, we can all sit here and say Manchester City were brilliant. They went and got the draw. Although it wasn't pretty on the eye, I thought Arsenal were absolutely outstanding. To go out, can you imagine being in that dressing room at half-time, Raf, when Mikel Arteta says, lads, we're going to have a wall of 6 and a wall of 3. And somebody says, well, who's up front? Nobody's up front. We're defending for 45 minutes. All the pundits, even Merson on Sky Sports said, Arsenal are going to need all sorts of luck here. They can't defend for 45 minutes against this City team. They did it. There was 7 minutes added on at the end of the second half. And it's not by design, Raf. Manchester City didn't give a lovely move like the Savinho one where he comes in off the line and plays Haaland through, like the force goal. There was absolutely none of that. This is a deflected shot that finds its way into John Stones' path and he hits it into the back of the net. Just off the cuff look stuff. So Arsenal, extremely unlucky. Trossard should get an earful from every one of his teammates when he gets in there. And I'm sure, although Arteta's gave him a hug, I'm sure he's had a quiet word in his ear as well about being a little bit more professional. And what Johnny's saying is right, and we can laugh at it. When City score, Haaland picks up the ball and bounces it off Gabriel's head. Now, look, it's funny, it wouldn't have hurt that much, but there's young kids looking at that thinking, oh, maybe I'll try that up in Fairview Park on the weekend. Maybe
it's disrespectful, Keith. It's disrespectful.
It's so disrespectful. And even one of the Arsenal youngsters come on, and Kiwior as well, the Polish international, come on, and they were having a bit of, to and fro with Haaland, and you could see Haaland saying, who are you? Go away from him. And you're like, you're coming across, and I know it's a bit of needle. I love all that, but you cannot, this is what's wrong with the game, Raf. Goalkeepers will go down every single game and they will waste time, and players will go over and get more instructions from their sideline. Yeah, you can pick the ball up and bounce it off somebody's head and it's not a yellow card. But if you kick the ball away 2 yards like Declan Rice did, it's a yellow card. The game has gone back to front in some respects and it needs to be sorted out, because I think Michael Oliver is the best referee England has to offer. He's a very, very high standard, but yesterday at times I thought the game got away from him. The physical battle between the two centre-halves of Arsenal and Haaland, great to watch, but I think the referee has to have a bit more of a say within the game.
Yeah, and then...
Did he let the match restart, Raf? Didn't he let the match restart for the Arsenal goal?
Yes.
The Walker was out of position and he let it restart. Pep was going bananas over it. Did he blow the whistle? Did he let the match restart? We're talking about delaying the restarts. It was the opposite there. And he got it down the wing and the goal came from that brilliant finish, mind you. But I think I agree with Keith. He's a good referee, but there was times when it was all kicking off and he just stepped away. He didn't seem to know how to control the madness of the players getting involved with each other. But it was a proper game. I had everything. It was an absolute proper game. And I loved to be there. I was there a couple of times last season. I've seen City playing. I've seen Spurs beat them, and I've seen Palace beat them, and I've seen Pep absolutely going bananas. But he was absolutely like a lunatic yesterday. I can only imagine what was going on the benches. And I love him to be there on both benches. But look, I think it was good for the league. It was good to show the different qualities. The defending of Arsenal, they've defended really, really well this season. I have to say they defended really, really well. Their set piece play, they've scored so many goals from their set plays and whatever. So they're going to be there and thereabouts, absolutely there and thereabouts. But Aston Villa had a good win as well. They had a brilliant start to the season, Raf. I know it's not part of the agenda, but they've had a great start to the season as well.
Yeah, including in the Champions League during the week as well. So after, what was it, 40 something year, 42 years away from, or thereabouts from playing in the top competition. But I suppose before we go, Rodri's injury, Keith, we don't know the severity of it, but he anyway, he seemed in a lot of pain, and it seemed innocuous enough when he went down. In game as well, it seems his presence might have been missed when those moments where, say, Ruben Dias is getting on the ball outside the box. You can imagine Rodri curling it in from there. He's done it loads. But overall, as the season goes on, if he's out for any length of time, does that swing it a little bit towards Arsenal, Liverpool, etc.? Because he's arguably their best player.
Yeah, possibly. You know, if you're looking at it from an Arsenal point of view, there's a little glimmer of hope there if Rodri's out. And the one thing I will say, Raf, is the ones where you think where it's not a tackle, where there's not a bruise and, you know, contact and he just goes down, and innocuous one, you're thinking them ones aren't great, because, you know, Rodri was going around, looked to be in an awful lot of pain on the ground. There seemed to be tears coming out of his eyes, as if he knows, you know, that's 1 month, 2 months gone of my season, whatever it may be. Yeah, it doesn't look great, but you can manage without a Rodri. You can manage without a Kevin De Bruyne. But can you manage without both of them? I'm not too sure. De Bruyne obviously didn't play yesterday. Rodri come off after 20 minutes. So, you know, a lot of people are saying Arsenal defended really well. I'm sure Pep would say, well, if we had Rodri there and we had De Bruyne, we'd have made an awful lot more, chances. But yeah, it probably was a weakened Manchester City team. But even without Rodri, I think Kovacic is getting better with every game he's playing. I really liked him when he was at Chelsea. Croatia, he's brilliant in that little threesome in there with Modric. He's absolutely outstanding. So, I don't think the levels come down too much. Rodri is the best in the world in that defensive midfielder position, but Kovacic brings a little something different to it. Not as good at reading the play and breaking it up, but can pass just as well. So I don't think it's massive. But Rodri and De Bruyne going missing could be a problem.
Yeah, it's still early days in the season anyway. We'll see how all that plays out as well. And as the League of Ireland, the exact same as well, because that is starting to get towards crunch time, and also lots of FAI Cup semis on the horizon, and of course the FAI Cup final as well. So all that to come over the next couple of months. But for the moment anyway, we'll be back next Monday. And thanks very much to Keith Treacy and Johnny McDonnell.